The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in session for 12 hours. Representatives from 47 species sat in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, all talking at once about the same thing: what to do about the humans. Chancellor. Morden of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center podium, his tall frame trembling with rage. They used our own technology against us. Somehow these primitives have built ships that can destroy our most advanced vessels. High Commodore Zekthara of the Nexari hegemony activated a holographic display showing the wreckage from the battle. 4 of our ships were destroyed by what appeared to be a single human vessel, but our analysis shows it was actually multiple ships that could combine and separate at will. The representative from the Kethron Dominion, a massive being called War Speaker Goliath, slammed his armored fist on his speaking platform. 2 of our planet killers were destroyed instantly. Whatever weapon the humans used, it turned our own firepower against us. In the observation gallery, Ambassador Trelak of the Vorthon Republic watched the proceedings with growing concern. His species had remained neutral during the First Human War, but they were being pressured to join the coalition forming against Earth. The human threat must be eliminated completely this time, Chancellor Mordoon continued. We propose a joint fleet of 300 ships from all major powers. Every human military installation will be destroyed, and then we will begin systematic elimination of their population centers. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Earth's new orbital shipyard and watched construction teams put the finishing touches on humanity's first purpose-built warship. The vessel, which they had named Defiance, was smaller than the Retribution but incorporated everything they had learned from rebuilding the alien wreck. Around Earth's orbit, 5 more ships neared completion. Each one was unique, designed for different types of combat. The Vengeance specialized in long-range attacks. The Resolve was built for close-quarters fighting. The Phoenix carried advanced manufacturing equipment that could repair battle damage in hours instead of days. Status report, Jake said to his staff. Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her engineering displays. All 6 ships show full power generation. The exotic matter synthesis systems are working perfectly. Maya Chen was coordinating the neural networks for all 6 vessels. Crew integration is complete. Each ship can operate independently or as part of a larger fleet mind. Commander Sam Peterson studied tactical displays showing the approaching alien fleet. 312 ships representing 7 different species. They will arrive in 36 hours. Jake nodded. 6 ships against 300 was still impossible odds, but these were not the same humans who had been defeated 4 years ago. They had learned to think like their enemies while remaining human. Athena, fleet status, Jake said. The AI's voice came from speakers throughout the command center. All ships report ready for combat. Crew morale is high. We are eager to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when they refuse to surrender. 24 hours later, the alien fleet entered Earth's solar system. Admiral Kexthor commanded the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Ships from 7 species spread across space in a formation designed to surround and destroy any possible resistance. Begin deep scan of the inner system, Kexthor ordered. Locate all human military assets and civilian population centers. The scan results appeared on his tactical display, and Kexthor felt a moment of confusion. Instead of the scattered, desperate defensive positions he expected, the humans had arranged their ships in a tight formation around Earth. Only 6 ships? Commander Veklos asked. Sir, this must be a trap. It is no trap, Kexthor replied. It is surrender. They know they cannot fight us, so they are making a final gesture of defiance before we destroy them. But as the alien fleet closed the distance to Earth, Jake Morrison was implementing a strategy that no alien military mind could have predicted. Instead of trying to defend Earth from attack, he was going to attack first. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, Jake said over the fleet communication network. Execute Operation Lightning Storm. The 6 human ships vanished. They did not flee or retreat. They simply disappeared from all sensors as their advanced stealth systems activated. The alien fleet suddenly found itself approaching a seemingly empty solar system. "Where did they go?" Admiral Kexthor demanded. His answer came from across the galaxy. While the alien fleet had been approaching Earth, the human ships had used their superior FTL capabilities to strike at targets throughout alien space. Shipyards, supply depots, and command centers that had been secure for centuries were suddenly under attack by ships that appeared from nowhere. The retribution materialized inside the Zephyrian home system and destroyed their primary naval academy before anyone could react. The Defiance hit 3 Nexari supply stations in rapid succession, each time vanishing before defenders could respond. The Vengeance struck the Kethron military shipyards, crippling their ability to build new battleships. Each attack followed the same pattern. Appear without warning, destroy key targets with precision strikes, disappear before enemy forces could coordinate a response. The human ships moved faster than any alien vessel could follow, and their weapons were more accurate than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Sir, we are receiving reports from across the Empire," Commander Veklo said, his voice shaking. "Our naval academy, 3 fleet bases, and the primary shipyard have all been destroyed. The humans are attacking our home systems while we are here." Admiral Kexthor stared at his tactical display. The alien fleet had come to destroy Earth, but the humans had turned the tables completely. While the aliens were concentrated in one system, the humans were free to attack targets across dozens of systems. "Order all ships to return to defend their home systems," Kexthor commanded. "Sir, that will split our fleet," Veklos protested. "If we stay here, we will win a worthless victory over an empty planet while our entire civilization is destroyed behind us," Kexthor replied. As the alien fleet began to break apart, the 6 human ships reappeared around Earth. But they did not resume defensive positions. Instead, they began hunting the retreating alien vessels. The battle that followed spread across 3 star systems. Alien ships that had expected to fight a defensive enemy instead found themselves being stalked by hunters that could strike from any direction. The humans used their superior mobility to separate alien ships from their formations, then destroyed them one by one. The Phoenix demonstrated humanity's most terrifying capability when it captured an intact Nexari destroyer. Using advanced manufacturing systems, the human ship began replicating itself, creating copies that were improvements on the original design. Within hours, 1 human ship had become 3. "They are not just fighting us," reported the Nexari Commodore. "They are learning from us and building better versions of themselves while they fight." The war lasted 6 months, but it was unlike any conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive fleet battles, it was a series of lightning strikes and running battles across dozens of systems. The humans never fought where the aliens expected them to, and they never fought fair. They hit supply lines that had been secure for centuries. They destroyed communication networks that connected alien empires. They turned the aliens' own tactics against them, using superior mobility and unpredictable strategies to defeat forces that outnumbered them 10 to 1. The end came when the human fleet appeared at Nexus Prime, home of the Galactic Council. Admiral Morrison's ships took position around the planet and sent a simple message to the assembled representatives. "We are here to talk," Jake announced over all communication channels. "You tried to eliminate us because you thought we were primitive and dangerous. You were half right. We are dangerous, but we are not primitive anymore." The great chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Jake Morrison entered. He was the first human ever to address the assembly, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had just defeated the combined military might of 7 civilizations. 4 years ago, you decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to survive, Jake said. "You sent fleets to destroy us, thinking that your superior technology would make victory easy." He activated a holographic display showing the current status of alien military forces. Most of their fleets were in ruins. their shipyards destroyed, their command structures shattered. Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the largest fleet in human history, watching ships from dozens of liberated worlds take formation around Earth. The vessels came in every shape and size imaginable, built by species that had been enslaved for centuries, but now fought as free beings. The Canary had sent sleek ships that moved like hunting animals through space. The crystalline Zephyrite contributed vessels that looked like flying jewels, but carried weapons that could cut through any armor. The aquatic swimmers had built ships filled with water that moved in patterns no air-breathing species could match. Final. Count, Admiral, reported Captain Ryan Bell, now serving as fleet coordinator. We have 800 ships from 47 different worlds. It's the largest free fleet in galactic history. Jake nodded, but his expression remained grim. Intelligence. Reports showed that the hegemony was bringing twice that number from their core worlds. The aliens had spent months gathering every available ship for what they called the final pacification fleet. The battle would take place at Hegemony Prime, the ancient capital world where the original 12 species had first created their empire of slavery. It was the most heavily defended system in the galaxy, surrounded by orbital fortresses and protected by energy fields that could stop entire fleets. "They're making this personal," Jake said. "They could have chosen any battlefield, but they want us to come to their home system. They want to break us where their empire began." Dr. Amy Foster, now elderly but still brilliant, joined Jake on the command bridge. Her hair had turned gray during the years of war, but her eyes still burned with the fire that had driven human resistance from the beginning. "The technical analysis is complete," Amy reported. "Hegemony Prime's defenses are based on 3,000 years of military technology. They have weapons that can destroy planets and shields that can protect entire star systems." "Can we break through?" Jake asked. Amy smiled. "Their defenses are designed to stop conventional attacks by enslaved species using hegemony technology. But we're not conventional, and we're not using their technology anymore. We've had 4 years to improve on their designs." The human fleet had grown far beyond anything the aliens expected. Each liberated world had contributed not just ships and soldiers, but knowledge and innovation that had been suppressed for centuries. When free minds worked together, they created solutions that no empire could predict. The journey to Hegemony Prime took 2 weeks, with the Liberation Fleet traveling through hyperspace corridors that had been secret pathways for enslaved species for generations. Along the way, they picked up more ships from worlds that had only recently thrown off alien control. When they finally arrived at the edge of the Hegemony home system, Jake Morrison found himself looking at the most terrifying sight in the galaxy. Hegemony Prime was surrounded by defensive structures that dwarfed anything humans had ever imagined. Orbital fortresses the size of moons floated in perfect formation around the planet. Enemy fleet detected, called Commander Tony Blake from his ship's position. "I count 1,600 vessels, including 12 super dreadnoughts and 47 planet killers." The Hegemony fleet moved toward them in perfect formation, a wall of metal and energy that had never been defeated in 3,000 years of conquest. At its head flew the flagship of the Hegemony Supreme Commander, a vessel so large it generated its own gravity field. "Liberation Fleet, this is Admiral Morrison." Jake spoke into the communication system that connected all the Allied ships. "Today, we fight not just for our own freedom, but for every being who has ever dreamed of liberty. Show them what free people can do." The battle began with the longest-range weapons exchange in galactic history. The Hegemony opened fire first, sending beams of energy that could vaporize asteroids across millions of kilometers of space. But the Liberation Fleet didn't try to absorb the attack. Instead, they scattered in all directions, using speed and unpredictability to avoid destruction. General Holly Martinez had spent years studying the weaknesses of authoritarian military systems. The Hegemony Fleet was powerful, but it was also rigid and predictable. Their commanders had never learned to adapt because they had never faced an enemy that could force them to change. The liberation forces used tactics that the aliens couldn't understand. Ships from different species worked together in ways that seemed impossible, sharing targeting data and coordinating attacks across vast distances. The Canary ships provided speed and maneuverability, the Zephyrites offered precision weapons, and the swimmers added unpredictable movement patterns that confused alien computers. But it was the human ships that provided the element no one expected. They carried weapons built from a combination of alien technology and human innovation, devices that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. When these weapons struck hegemony vessels, the effects were devastating. Direct hit on their lead dreadnought, reported Captain Susan Wright. Their shields are fluctuating. Whatever Dr. Foster built, it's working. Amy Foster had spent 4 years developing weapons that specifically targeted hegemony technology. She understood that their empire was built on standardization and control, which meant every ship used the same basic systems. If you could disrupt those systems, you could cripple an entire fleet. The tide of battle began to turn when the hegemony commanders realized their standard tactics weren't working. Their ships were designed to fight other vessels using familiar technology and predictable strategies. Against an alliance of free species using hybrid weapons and innovative tactics, their advantages disappeared. Admiral, the enemy is breaking formation, Captain Ryan Bell reported. Their fleet coordination is falling apart. Jake Morrison watched as the most powerful military force in galactic history began to crumble. Without the ability to control the battlefield, the hegemony ships started fighting as individual units rather than a coordinated fleet. This played directly into the Liberation Force's strengths. The final phase of the battle was unlike anything in recorded history. As hegemony ships fell one by one, their crews began to realize that their empire was truly defeated. Some vessels surrendered rather than face destruction. Others tried to flee to distant systems where they might hide from the consequences of their defeat. But it was the planetary defenses that provided the most dramatic moment of the war. The orbital fortresses around Hegemony Prime had been built to last forever, powered by technology that seemed almost magical. When they began to explode in chains of fire that lit up the entire system, it sent a message across the galaxy that could be seen from thousands of light years away. The Hegemony Supreme Commander's flagship was the last to fall. Jake Morrison, personally, led the boarding party that captured the vessel and its crew. When he walked onto the enemy bridge, he found himself face to face with the being who had ruled the galaxy for over a century. "Your empire is finished," Jake told the alien commander. "Your fleets are destroyed, your worlds are in rebellion, and your system of control is broken forever." The Supreme Commander looked at Jake with what might have been respect. "You have doomed the galaxy to chaos. Without the hegemony to maintain order, countless worlds will fall to war and suffering. Then we'll help them build something better," Jake replied. "Something based on cooperation instead of domination. Something where every species has a voice." The aftermath of the battle marked the end of 3,000 years of galactic tyranny. But Jake Morrison and the other liberation leaders faced a new challenge. What came next? President Laura Watson, elected by Earth's Reconstruction government, addressed the newly free galaxy from the former hegemony capital. Her message was broadcast to every world that had participated in the liberation. "We didn't fight to replace one empire with another," Laura said. "We fought to ensure that no species would ever again be enslaved. The galaxy belongs to all of us, and we must build its future together." The Galactic Liberation Council was established in the ruins of the old Imperial Palace. Representatives from every freed world gathered to create new laws and institutions that would protect liberty throughout the galaxy. The process was slow and sometimes difficult, but it was guided by principles that had never before existed on such a scale. Dr. Amy Foster, now recognized as one of the greatest scientists in galactic history, led the development of new technologies that would prevent any single species from dominating others. Her greatest achievement was a communication network that connected every world in the galaxy, making it impossible for tyrants to operate in secret. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical. Across the galaxy, the concept of inherent freedom had taken root. Children of dozens of species learned words like liberty and independence as fundamental truths rather than impossible dreams. Captain Ryan Bell, now an aging veteran, often reflected on how it all began. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as a primitive species marked for slavery. They had ended it as the liberators who taught the galaxy that no being should ever bow to another unless they chose to do so freely. The galaxy didn't bow to humanity in submission, but in gratitude. And for the first time in 3,000 years, every species in the galaxy could look up at the stars and dream of a better future. Freedom had won, and it would never be surrendered again. Jake Morrison kicked a piece of twisted metal out of his path. The chunk of alien steel bounced down the rocky slope and crashed into the valley below. 3 years had passed since the war ended, but the mountains of Colorado still looked like a bomb had gone off. The captain pulled his jacket tighter against the cold wind. Behind him, 3 other people climbed carefully over the broken ground. Lisa Carter carried her scanner in one hand and used the other to steady herself on the loose rocks. Ryan Brooks had his tool bag slung over his shoulder, while Amy Foster took pictures of the strange writing carved into fallen pieces of the ship. "How much further?" Lisa asked. Her breath came out in white puffs in the thin mountain air. Jake pointed ahead to where a massive shadow fell across the mountainside. "Right there, the main hull section." The wreck of the alien ship stretched for almost 2 miles along the valley floor. Parts of it stuck up through the snow like the ribs of some dead giant. Most people avoided this place. The government had declared it off limits. But Jake knew the right people. He also knew that nobody really wanted to come back here anyway. The Zephyrians had left Earth 3 years ago after beating humanity in every single battle. They had taken what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. This ship had crashed during the last fight over Denver. The aliens had written it off as junk and left it behind when they went back to their home worlds. "Look at the size of that thing," Ryan said as they got closer to the main section. The hull rose up like a metal cliff in front of them. Holes big enough to drive trucks through were torn in the sides. Amy stopped to examine some of the alien text carved near what might have been a door. "I have never seen writing like this before. It does not match anything from the other crash sites." Jake nodded. This ship was different from the smaller vessels that had gone down during the war. Those had been fighters and transport ships. This was something much bigger, something important. They found an opening in the hull that led into the ship's interior. Jake turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The beam cut through the darkness and lit up a corridor that stretched away into the distance. The walls were made of some kind of smooth metal that seemed to glow faintly in the light. "The air is breathable," Lisa said, checking her scanner. "A little thin, but we should be okay." They walked deeper into the ship. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. Doors lined both sides of the corridor, but most were sealed shut. The few that hung open showed rooms filled with broken equipment and strange furniture built for beings much taller than humans. After 20 minutes of walking, they reached a large open area that might have been the bridge. Banks of dark screens lined the walls. In the center of the room, a chair that could have seated a 10-foot-tall creature sat facing the largest screen. "This is it," Jake said. "This is where they controlled everything." Lisa ran her scanner over the control panels. "I am getting power readings. Very faint, but something is still running." Amy moved to examine the symbols on the displays. Even though the screens were dark, the alien writing was carved into the metal around them. "If we could figure out how to turn this on, we might learn something useful." Ryan was already pulling tools from his bag. "Let me see what I can do." As Ryan worked on the control panels, Jake walked around the bridge. The aliens had built everything. On a huge scale. The doorways were 12 feet tall. The chairs could seat giants. But the basic layout made sense. Command chair in the center, weapons controls to the right, navigation to the left. "Got something?" Ryan called out. One of the smaller screens flickered to life. Strange symbols scrolled across the display. Amy hurried over to look. "This looks like a log of some kind. If I am reading this right, this ship was called the Void Render." "Void Render," Jake repeated. "Sounds about right for these people." Lisa was studying her scanner readings. "The power source is deeper in the ship. Whatever is running this, it is big." They spent the next hour exploring the bridge and the areas around it. Most of the ship's systems were dead, but a few key systems still had power. The computer core was damaged but working. The navigation system showed star charts with dozens of worlds marked in alien text. As they worked, Jake heard footsteps in the corridor outside. He held up his hand for quiet and drew his sidearm. The others froze. A man stepped into the doorway. He was thin and pale, with long hair and a beard that showed he had not seen a razor in months. His clothes were patched and dirty, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Do not shoot," the man said, raising his hands. "I live here." "You live here?" Jake kept his gun pointed at the stranger. "My name is Alex Sullivan. I used to teach at MIT before the war. I have been studying this ship for 8 months. Jake did not lower his weapon. "Why?" "Because this ship contains the complete technical database of the Zephyrian Empire. Every ship design, every weapon system, every piece of technology they use. It is all here." Lisa stepped forward. "That is impossible. The government teams went through all the crash sites. They did not find anything like that." Alex smiled for the first time. "The government teams did not know what to look for. They were looking for weapons and engines. I was looking for information." "Show us," Jake said. Alex led them deeper into the ship, through corridors that Jake was sure they had not explored yet. They went down several levels to a section that was in much better condition than the upper areas. "The Zephyrians built their ships with multiple backup systems," Alex explained as they walked. "When the main computer was destroyed, the backup systems kept running, but you have to know how to access them." They reached a room filled with tall towers that hummed with quiet energy. Lights blinked on and off in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. "This is the backup data core," Alex said. "It contains copies of everything that was on the main computer. Ship designs, star charts, tactical information, even personal logs from the crew." Amy was already examining the alien text on the towers. "How much information are we talking about?" "Everything," Alex said. "The complete technical specifications for every ship in their fleet, the locations of their colonies and military bases, their manufacturing capabilities, their resource requirements, their strategic plans." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. "Are you saying we could build ships like theirs?" "Better than theirs," Alex said, "because we would know exactly how their ships work and where their weak points are." Ryan was studying the power distribution systems. "We would need resources, manufacturing capability, people who understand this technology." "And time," Lisa added. "It would take years to build something like this." Alex nodded. "But it could be done. Humans are good at taking things apart and putting them back together. We could take their technology and make it better." Jake walked around the room, thinking. The war had been a disaster for humanity. Earth's military was in ruins. Most of the major cities were damaged or destroyed. The aliens had left them alone, but only because they thought humans were not worth finishing off. "There is something else," Alex said quietly. "I have been monitoring deep space communications. Other species are sending scout ships to Earth. The Zephyrians told their neighbors about us. Some of them think Earth might be worth taking for themselves." "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 6 months, maybe less. Jake made his decision. We are going to rebuild this ship. The others stared at him. Lisa was the first to speak. Jake, that is crazy. Even if we could figure out how to do it, where would we get the resources? The people? We find them, Jake said. There are engineers and scientists all over Earth who would jump at the chance to work on something like this. People who want to hit back at the aliens who destroyed our world. Ryan was nodding slowly. It would have to be secret. If the government found out, they would shut us down or take over the project. Then we keep it secret, Jake said. We find the right people and bring them here. We give them the tools and the information they need. We turn this wreck into something that can fight back. Amy looked around at the alien technology surrounding them. You really think we can do this? Jake thought about the ruined cities, the millions of dead, and the aliens who thought humans were too primitive to be a real threat. I think we have to try. Alex walked over to one of the data towers and placed his hand on it. I have spent 8 months learning how to read their systems. I know where to start. Then we start tomorrow, Jake said. We are going to take their ship and make it ours. And when the next wave of aliens comes to Earth, they are going to find out that humans do not stay down when you knock them over. The 5 of them stood in the alien computer core, surrounded by technology that was beyond human understanding just 3 years ago. But humans were fast learners, and they had something the aliens did not expect, the willingness to take risks and try impossible things. The wreck of the Void Render had been sitting in these mountains for 3 years, written off as junk by its former owners. But Jake Morrison and his team were about to prove that one species' junk could become another species' salvation. They were going to turn this monument to human defeat into something that would make the galaxy take notice. The work would be hard and dangerous. Many people would call it impossible. But as Jake looked around at the alien technology that Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair and watched the stars. His ship, the UES Horizon, had been flying through space for 3 months. They were looking for new planets that humans could live on. Jake had done this job for 10 years, and he loved it. Space was big and full of surprises. The Horizon was not a warship. It was built for exploring. The crew of 200 people were scientists, doctors, and engineers. They had some weapons, but not many. Most alien races they met were friendly or just ignored them. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her station. I'm getting a strange signal. Jake turned his chair toward her. Amy was young but very good at her job. She could find radio signals from very far away. What kind of signal? Jake asked. It's not from any human ship, Amy said. The signal is very strong and it's aimed right at Earth. Someone really wants Earth to hear this. Jake felt his stomach tighten. In 10 years of exploring, he had never found a signal aimed at Earth from unknown aliens. This could be very good news or very bad news. Can you decode it? Jake asked. Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. Yes, sir. It's in many different languages. Some human languages, but also some I don't recognize. Whoever sent this knows a lot about us. Put it on the main screen, Jake ordered. The message appeared as text on the big screen at the front of the bridge. Jake read it twice, then read it again. His hands started to shake. The message was simple and direct. It came from something called the Keltharian Empire. They said humans had built colonies on planets that belonged to them. They wanted all humans to leave these planets and go back to Earth. They gave Earth 1 year to do this. If humans did not leave, the Keltharians would make them leave. Sir, said Amy quietly, there's more data attached to this message. It shows the locations of all our colonies. They know exactly where we live. Jake stood up from his chair. He had visited most of those colonies. New Geneva had 5 million people. Troy Station had 2 million. Dozens of other worlds had families, children, entire lives built on them. How long ago was this sent? Jake asked. 6 hours, Amy replied. It was sent from outside our solar system, but I can't tell exactly where. Jake walked to the communications station. Send an emergency message to Earth Defense Command, maximum priority. Include the full alien message and all the data they sent with it. The crew worked quickly to send the message back to Earth. It would take 4 hours to reach home because of the distance. Jake knew that Admiral Lisa Barnes would get the message first. She was the head of Earth's military forces. While they waited, Jake called his senior officers to the meeting room. Dr. Peter Hayes was the ship's science officer. Commander Ruth Kim was second in command. Chief Engineer Dan Foster took care of the ship's engines. "What do you think about this message?" Jake asked them. Dr. Hayes spoke first. "The language patterns are very advanced. Whoever sent this has studied human communication for a long time. They know our history, our politics, even our military structure." "That's what worries me," said Commander Kim. "How long have they been watching us? We never saw them." Chief Foster was quiet for a moment. The signal was incredibly powerful. To send something this strong across so many light years. "Their technology is far beyond ours." Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. "Any species that can send signals like this probably has weapons we can't imagine." Dr. Hayes pulled up a star map on the table display. "Look at this. They claim ownership of 17 star systems. That includes every human colony except Earth itself. If they're telling the truth, we're living on their land." "But we didn't know," Commander Kim said. "We never met them. How are we supposed to know these planets belong to someone?" "Maybe that's the point," Jake said. "Maybe they were testing us, seeing what we would do." Chief Foster looked worried. "Captain, what if this isn't their first message? What if they've been trying to contact us for years, and we just never received their signals?" The thought made Jake feel sick. Had Earth been ignoring alien messages? Were humans seen as invaders who refused to listen? 8 hours later, they received a reply from Earth. Admiral Barnes had read their message and shared it with the United Earth Council. The response was short. "Return to Earth immediately. Bring any additional data you can find about these Keltharians." The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, Jake's crew searched space for any signs of the aliens who had sent the message. They found nothing. No ships, no radio signals, no evidence that anyone was out there. But Jake knew they were being watched. He could feel it. When the horizon finally reached Earth, Jake was ordered to report directly to Admiral Barnes at Defense Command Headquarters. The building was on Luna, Earth's moon. It was built deep underground in case of attack. Admiral Barnes was a tall woman, with gray hair and hard eyes. She had fought in the colony wars 20 years ago. Jake had never seen her smile. "Captain Morrison," she said as Jake entered her office. "Tell me about these Keltharians." Jake sat down and told her everything. The signal, the message, the data. About human colonies. Admiral Barnes listened without interrupting. "We've been studying their message for 2 weeks," she said when Jake finished. "Our linguists say the translation is perfect. Too perfect. This species knows our language better than most humans do." She activated a holographic display that showed all of human space. Red dots marked every colony world. 43 colonies. Admiral Barnes said. 38 million people living outside the Sol system. The Keltharians want us to abandon all of them. "What does the council say?" Jake asked. Admiral Barnes was quiet for a long moment. "They're divided. Half want to try negotiating. The other half think it's a trick to make us give up our colonies for nothing. What do you think, Admiral?" "I think we're in trouble," she said. "I've been a soldier for 30 years. I know a threat when I see one. These Keltharians aren't asking us to leave. They're telling us." Jake looked at the holographic map. Each red dot represented millions of human lives. "How much do we know about their military strength?" Admiral Barnes touched a control, and the display changed. Now it showed what little intelligence Earth had gathered about the Keltharian Empire. "Not enough," she admitted. Our long-range sensors have detected massive objects moving in deep space. Ships, we think, but unlike anything we've ever seen. Some of them are the size of small moons. Jake felt cold. Human ships were big, but nothing like that. There's something else, Admiral Barnes continued. We've found records of other species that received similar messages from the Keltharians. 12 different races over the past 1,000 years. What happened to them? They're gone. All of them. Complete extinction. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. He thought about his crew, about all the people living on the colony worlds, about Earth itself. So we fight? Jake asked. Admiral Barnes looked at him with those hard eyes. The Council is still debating. But I want you to know something, Captain. If we do fight, it won't be like anything humanity has ever faced before. The Keltharians have been conquering species for thousands of years. They're very good at it. Jake stood up to leave, but Admiral Barnes stopped him. Captain, there is one more thing. Something the Council doesn't know yet. General Phillips has been working on a special project. Something that might give us a chance. What kind of project? Admiral Barnes smiled for the first time since Jake had known her. It was not a nice smile. The kind that shows aliens what happens when they threaten human families. 3 months before the Keltharian deadline, their advance fleet arrived at the edge of human space. Captain Jake Morrison watched them appear on his sensors aboard the UES Horizon. The alien ships looked like nothing he had ever seen. Count. Them, Jake ordered Lieutenant Amy Walsh. 50 ships, sir, Amy reported. But, sir, these things are huge. The smallest one is bigger than our largest battleship. Jake studied the sensor data. The Keltharian vessels didn't look like ships at all. They resembled massive coral formations or deep-sea creatures. Their hulls curved and twisted in organic patterns that hurt to look at. Some had tentacle-like structures that moved slowly through space. Any weapons visible? Jake asked. I can't tell, Amy said. The hull composition keeps changing. It's like they're alive. Because they are alive, said Dr. Peter Hayes from the science station. I'm reading biological signatures from all 50 ships. They're not built. They're grown. The alien fleet took position near Proxima Centauri, humanity's first colony outside the solar system. They didn't attack, but their presence sent a clear message. The deadline was approaching. Jake sent a report to Earth Defense Command and received new orders within hours. Admiral Barnes wanted him to make contact with the aliens. Earth had decided to try diplomacy one more time. Send them this message, Jake told Amy. The United Earth government wishes to arrange a formal diplomatic meeting. Please send a representative. To coordinates we will provide. The response came quickly, transmitted in perfect English. Your request is acceptable. We will send a diplomatic vessel to your specified location. Do not attempt deception. We are watching. Admiral Barnes chose the meeting location carefully, an empty star system between human space and neutral territory. It had 1 small star and 6 dead planets. Most importantly, it was far from any human colonies. Ambassador Helen Price arrived 2 days later aboard the diplomatic ship UES Harmony. She was an experienced negotiator who had settled disputes with a dozen alien species. Helen was calm, smart, and very good at reading people. What are my instructions? Helen asked Jake. During their briefing. Keep them talking, Jake said. Ask questions about their culture, their history, their technology. The longer the meeting lasts, the more intelligence we can gather. And if they demand immediate surrender, refuse politely. Tell them humanity needs time to consider their proposal. What Helen didn't know was that the UES Leviathan was hiding in the shadow of the system's largest gas giant. Commander Steve Harrison and his crew waited silently while their sensors analyzed every detail of the approaching alien ship. The Keltharian diplomatic vessel entered the system 3 hours later. It was smaller than their warships, but still massive by human standards. The ship looked like a giant sea anemone with flowing tendrils that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. "Beginning passive scans," reported Dr. Alex Carter from the Leviathan's science station. "Their hull is definitely organic. I'm reading neural tissue, circulatory systems, even what might be digestive organs." Commander Harrison watched the alien ship on his main screen. "It's not a ship at all," he realized. "It's a creature with a pilot inside." "Confirmed," Dr. Carter said. "I'm detecting a smaller life form in the central cavity. The ship and pilot are separate organisms working together." The diplomatic meeting began on schedule. Ambassador Price and her small team transferred to a neutral station that had been built hastily for the occasion. The Keltharian representative arrived in a shuttle that looked like a flying jellyfish. The alien who emerged was unlike anything humans had encountered. Sub-hierarch Velthos stood 3 meters tall on 4 legs that ended in claw-like feet. His body was covered in scales that shifted color constantly. 2 large eyes dominated his head, and his mouth was filled with sharp teeth. "I am Sub-hierarch Velthos of the Keltharian Empire," the alien said through a translation device. "I speak for Hierarch Zethkar, commander of this fleet." "I'm Ambassador Helen Price of the United Earth Government," Helen replied. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Velthos settled onto a specially built chair. His scales turned a deep red color. "Your species has expanded beyond acceptable boundaries. You will withdraw from all worlds outside your birth system." "That's a significant request," Helen said, carefully. "Our colonies have existed for generations. Millions of people call those worlds home." "Irrelevant," Velthos said. "Those worlds belong to the Keltharian Empire by right of ancient claim. Your species was not even space-capable when we first visited those systems." Helen leaned forward. "May I ask when the Keltharian Empire first visited those systems?" 12,000 years ago, Velthos replied without hesitation. "We have maintained territorial claims throughout this region of space since before your species discovered fire." On the Leviathan, Dr. Carter was recording every word while his sensors analyzed the alien ship. "The organic computer systems are incredible," he reported to Commander Harrison. "They're processing information through living neural networks. Response time is almost instantaneous." "Faster than our computers?" Harrison asked. "Much faster. But there's something interesting. The ship's hull is constantly adapting. It's learning from our passive scans and adjusting its defenses." Harrison frowned. "Can it adapt to weapons fire?" "Probably. If we hit it with lasers, the hull would likely become reflective. Projectiles would make it harder. It's like fighting a creature that evolves in real time." The diplomatic meeting continued for hours. Helen asked careful questions about Keltharian history and culture. Velthos seemed eager to demonstrate his species' superiority. "We have conquered over 400 species," he said proudly. "Some submitted peacefully and were allowed to serve the Empire. Others resisted and were eliminated." "What determines which fate a species receives?" Helen asked. "Usefulness," Velthos replied. "Species that can contribute to the Empire are preserved. Those that cannot are removed to make room for better races." "And how do you determine usefulness?" Velthos's scales shifted to orange. "Combat ability, technological innovation, resource production. Your species shows promise in some areas but lacks discipline." "Discipline? You spread across space without permission. You colonize worlds without investigating prior claims. You act like children who have never been taught proper behavior." Helen kept her voice steady. "We had no way of knowing these worlds were claimed. We never encountered the Keltharian Empire before." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Velthos said. "The strong rule space. The weak serve or die. This is natural law." On the Leviathan, Lieutenant Sarah Blake was analyzing the aliens' escort ships. 6 vessels maintaining formation around the diplomatic ship, she reported. Weapon systems are built into their organic structure. I'm seeing bioplasma projectors and what might be particle beam organs. Effective range? Commander Harrison asked. Unknown, but the power readings are impressive. Each ship could probably destroy one of our destroyers. Dr. Carter continued his scans of the main diplomatic vessel. I'm learning how their organic computers work, he told Harrison. They use quantum entanglement between neural clusters. Information travels instantly between different parts of their ships and fleets. Could we disrupt that communication? Maybe, if we could introduce a viral program into their neural network. Work on it, Harrison ordered. The diplomatic meeting reached its climax after 6 hours. Ambassador Price had gathered valuable intelligence, but the aliens' position remained unchanged. The Keltharian Empire offers humanity one final opportunity, Velthos announced. Withdraw from all claimed worlds within the specified time period. Those who submit will be evaluated for potential service to the Empire. And if we refuse? Helen asked. Velthos's scales turned black. Then you will join the 400 species that chose extinction over wisdom. Helen stood up slowly. I'll need to relay your offer to my government. You have 73 of your days remaining, Velthos said. Use them wisely. As the alien representative prepared to leave, Helen delivered Earth's prepared response. Ambassador Velthos, after careful consideration, the United Earth government must respectfully decline your generous offer. We will keep our worlds, thank you. The alien froze. His scales cycled rapidly through different colors, red, orange, black, then a purple that made the air seem to vibrate. You refuse the Empire's mercy, Velthos asked. We prefer to call it independence, Helen replied calmly. Velthos rose to his full height. Then you have chosen death. The Keltharian Empire has never been denied. Your species will learn the price of defying natural order. The alien delegation departed immediately. Their ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying word back to the main fleet. Ambassador Price returned to the Harmony, shaken but determined. They're not going to negotiate, she reported to Jake. This was all theater. They've already decided to attack. Did you learn anything useful? Jake asked. They're arrogant, Helen said. They've conquered so many species that they can't imagine losing. That might be their weakness. On the Leviathan, Commander Harrison reviewed Dr. Carter's intelligence reports. The alien ships were incredibly advanced, but they followed predictable patterns. Their organic computers made them fast and adaptable, but also potentially vulnerable to specific types of attack.